Welcome! I'm Nicole Klassen. Today I'm going to show you how I approach setting up a still life. I work from life, so I have an adjustable height drafting table in the studio that I can place my setup on, and I use a single light source. Usually when I begin, I have a general idea of what I want in a setup. In this case, I've decided I want to use this screen and that I want to make the composition fairly simple. So I begin setting the screen up in a way that catches the light dramatically, and I move the whole screen slightly to the left of the platform in order to make use of the best part of the screen painting. I paint sitting down, so whenever I view what I've got so far in my setup, I sit down in the same place, so my vantage point doesn't change. I also mark my chair position on the floor. Next, I test out objects that I want to be the most important to the composition. You could sort of think of it as like tryouts for a starring role in a play. Since I know it will be the main object, I choose fairly large subjects. This one looks pretty good. Its vertical shape is maybe too strong with the vertical lines of the screen. I could offset that with lots of horizontal shapes if I really wanted to. Now, blue is the opposite of orange, so I could work out a complementary color scheme. Now, I like this better. The width of the body of the vase is a nice foil for the vertical screen, but I'll see what other options I have. This one could make an austere composition with the straight lines. Oh, I love this vase with this screen. The colors echo the screen and I like the dragon motif. Also, the shape is a pleasant round against the sharp screen. But I'll keep looking. Nice too, very nice. This sort of kills the vibrancy of the scene. All the gold and dark tones are boring. Okay, I've decided on the dragon vase. Next, I'll choose what surface I want for the tabletop. You can rationalize what will look good in your mind, but there's nothing as useful as actually seeing it. I'm trying out some pink marble. I don't have enough pieces to cover the whole tabletop, but I can fake it. Now I want to see how my chosen objects look in situ. This doesn't work. It's too light and too strong a contrast with the screen, creating a sharp line where they meet, and too little contrast with the jar. Also, the pink clashes. Maybe green marble. No, it looks a little garish. Yes, that's nice. This is subtle enough to play up the jar, and the reflections are good. The reflections could also help unify the design. But I'll keep looking. I have doubts about getting this red to work with the gold and green, but I could play up the reddish leaves on the screen to help harmonize. No. I'm opting for the black marble. It's a tedious process, but the composition is the most important aspect of painting. No amount of gorgeous brushwork or draftsmanship can save a badly composed painting. I usually spend 1 to 3 days working out and refining my design. I spend about a month painting a picture, so I want to make sure that the setup is the best I can get it. And I explore my options. Next, I'll look for the other items to include in the composition. You could think of them as the supporting cast. Maybe these oranges will look good. Their bright orange color adds pop and echoes the more subtle orange in the screen and jar. I'll try to give them a good chance by arranging them in a roughly pleasing way. No, they're too big. They overwhelm the jar. Tangerines would have the pluses of the oranges without the size problem. I like that. I'm making a mental note that the orange reflection on the lower right side of the jar is beautiful. I'll make sure to keep that in the composition and play it up when I paint it. Okay, for sure the tangerines, but it still needs more. It's a little stark right now. Maybe a bowl for the fruit. This one's a little too wide. The width fights a little with the jar, and the gray metal is too similar to the marble. I do like that little bit of green enamel that shows in the interior, though. This brass bowl is a better width, and its greater height gives me a transition from the jar to the rest of the tangerines. It needs some accents. There's too much orange and gold. Let's try purple grapes. That's nice. The little highlights add interest, and the color is a nice complement to the orange. The dark value is a good change from the light tangerines jar and bowl. I'll try some other options. These blackberries don't have the translucence of the grapes. The blueberries are too big a mass and the color's too blue. I'll put the grapes back. Will a little teapot with a dragon motif look good? Theoretically it should, but it just makes the composition look jumbly. Okay, I was pretty sure this wouldn't work. It's too big and too white, and being a dragon, it will probably overpower the jar. Yike! I was right. That's awful. I just had to check. What about this beautiful lacquer plate? It might echo the screen nicely and add to the interest. It's too big leaning. And it's too long and shallow to replace the brass bowl. It's out. I like the basic look of what I have on the tabletop now. Foliage would soften the lines of the screen and introduce more green into the upper portion of the design. I like the graceful sweep of these leaves. These look good too. Foliage is notoriously difficult to arrange. I'm just getting the general idea here. I like how the circular leaves echo the fruit and the screen flowers. I like them the best. I'm adding a white flower. It will echo the lightness of the jar, and it also repeats the design of the painted flowers on the screen. I adjust more minutely. Now that I got everything mostly where I want it, I see that the eye level is just a little too low. I hate to do it, but I have to take everything off and adjust the height of the table. I taped the tangerines down and marked where everything else goes, so I wouldn't have to lose what I had. The foliage needs to be tweaked. I can tweak it in the painting, not in the physical setup, but I try to get as close as I can in the setup stage. The lighting is an important part of the composition. I tried a few angles, and I like this the best. satisfied with this. I know I want to make a vertical painting in a standard size. I usually paint standard size work so that I have the option of using ready-made frames. I also want to make this a mid-size canvas. As a general rule, you shouldn't paint a still life larger than life. It looks weird. Let's see how it would work as a 2016. The downside to standard sizes is that you're confined by the proportions, and 2016 is too narrow. I could tweak the composition to get it to work. 2418 is even worse. 2420 is the widest, and it works the best. I always look at a mirror image of my setup at this point. It gives me a fresh eye and makes it easier to detect flaws. I see that the design could use one more leaf reaching over to the left, or in this case to the right in the mirror image. I'll just paint that in during the actual painting process. I'm pleased with this final design. Okay, that's it for this still life setup. If you'd like to see more of my work, I have a video of lots of my finished pieces, and I also have a website at bnklassenpaintings.com. The links are below in the About section. Thanks for stopping by.